As people grow older, many of them quietly wonder why life still feels heavy. They have already worked enough, endured enough, and given enough. Logically, this stage of life should feel lighter. But for many elderly people, peace remains distant. Not because they lack love, and not because their children are ungrateful by nature, but because certain habits formed from love slowly turn into emotional burdens. Wise elderly people eventually realize this. They don't become cold or distant. They simply stop doing a few things that cost them their peace. And the first thing they stop doing is often the hardest to accept. Wise elderly people never sacrifice their financial security for their children. This does not mean they refuse to help. It means they understand something that younger parents often overlook. Money in old age is not just money. It is safety. It is freedom. It is the ability to make choices without fear. Many elderly parents once believed that giving everything to their children was the ultimate form of love. They helped buy houses, paid off debts, supported businesses, covered expenses again and again, telling themselves that they could manage with less. At the time, it felt noble. It felt like responsibility. But years later, the reality looks very different. Savings are gone. Medical needs increase. Daily expenses rise. And suddenly, the parent who once gave generously begins to worry quietly at night. They hesitate before buying what they need. They feel anxious about the future. Some even feel afraid to speak honestly because they no longer want to be a burden. This is the moment when love turns into silent suffering. Wise elders learn to stop before reaching this point. They understand that when they give away their financial independence, they also give away their peace. They may still help their children, but they do it within clear limits. They do not drain their retirement funds. They do not risk their health or comfort. They know that when an elderly person remains financially stable, they are treated differently. They are listened to. They are respected. They are not pitted. There is a quiet strength in being able to say no calmly. Not with anger. Not with guilt. Just with clarity. Wise elders know that children who are capable adults must also learn to manage adult responsibilities. When parents protect their finances, they are not abandoning their children. They are teaching them resilience. And in doing so, they protect their own dignity, which becomes the foundation of peace in later life. Closely connected to this financial wisdom is another powerful choice wise elderly people make. They stop solving every problem their children create. This habit usually begins with good intentions. Parents want to help. They want to prevent pain. They want their children's lives to be easier than their own were. But over time, constant rescuing creates a dangerous cycle. Every problem becomes an emergency. Every mistake becomes a crisis. And the elderly parent becomes emotionally exhausted. Wise elders recognize that when children are adults, struggle is no longer something to be removed at all costs. Struggle becomes a teacher. When parents interfere too quickly, children miss the lesson. They do not learn accountability. They do not build confidence. And the parents, instead of resting, remain trapped in a role they were meant to outgrow. There are countless quiet stories like this. An elderly father repeatedly paying his son's debts, hoping this time will be the last. A mother constantly mediating conflicts in her grown daughter's marriage, losing sleep over arguments that are not hers to carry. At first, these parents feel needed. Over time, they feel drained. Their own lives shrink while their children's problems grow larger. Wise elderly people choose a different path. They step back gently. They listen without immediately fixing. They allow silence where advice once rushed in. This does not mean they stop caring. It means they trust their children's ability to face life. They understand that peace does not come from controlling outcomes, but from releasing responsibility for outcomes that no longer belong to them. This shift brings relief. Suddenly, days feel quieter. Worries feel lighter. Elderly parents rediscover time for themselves. They sleep better. They laugh more easily. By letting go of constant rescuing, they reclaim emotional space that had been quietly consumed for years. Another habit wise elderly people abandon is expecting gratitude or repayment for raising their children. This expectation often lives unspoken, but it is powerful. Many parents never say it out loud, yet deep inside, They hope their sacrifices will be recognized. They hope their children will understand how much was given, how much was endured. When that recognition does not come in the way they imagined, disappointment slowly takes root. Wise elders learn that love with expectations becomes a source of pain. Children may love their parents deeply and still fail to express it in ways parents expect. Life moves fast. Responsibilities multiply. Intentions get lost in distraction. When elderly parents tie their happiness to their children's expressions of gratitude, they give away control over their emotional well-being. Instead, wise elders release the need to be repaid. They stop counting sacrifices. They stop measuring love through attention, gifts, or frequency of visits. This does not mean they accept neglect. It means they stop waiting for something that may never arrive in the form they imagined. When expectations dissolve, relationships change. Conversations feel lighter. Visits feel more genuine. There is less disappointment and more acceptance. Wise elders find peace not because their children suddenly behave differently, but because they themselves stop carrying invisible emotional debts. As this mindset settles in, elderly parents begin to experience a quiet transformation. They speak with less urgency. They react with less intensity. They start to understand that peace is not created by being central to their children's lives, but by being grounded in their own. And from this grounded place, they naturally begin to step back even further, allowing adult children to live their own lives fully, a realization that opens the door to even deeper wisdom still ahead. As this inner grounding slowly settles in, wise elderly people begin to notice something subtle but important. The less they chase control, the more peaceful their days become. And from that calm space, another realization naturally appears. The next thing wise elderly people stop doing is interfering in their children's adult lives. This is not an easy transition. For most parents, involvement has been their role for decades. Giving advice, correcting mistakes, stepping in when things seem to go wrong, these habits were once necessary. But wisdom teaches that what was once care can later become intrusion. Many elderly parents interfere not because they want control, but because they fear regret. They worry that if they stay silent, they will be blamed later. They worry that mistakes could have been prevented. So they speak up, again and again. They comment on marriages, parenting styles, careers, financial decisions. At first, these comments sound like concern. Over time, they feel like pressure. Wise elders begin to notice the change in their children's behavior. Conversations become shorter. Certain topics are avoided. Visits feel polite but distant. There is less sharing, less openness. Slowly, they realize that advice loses its value when it is constantly offered. Even the wisest words become heavy when they are not invited. There is a common story many elderly people recognize. A mother believes she knows what is best for her daughter's marriage. She notices small issues and immediately points them out, hoping to help. She thinks silence would be irresponsible. But each comment builds a wall. Eventually, her daughter stops confiding in her altogether. The mother feels hurt, believing her love is being rejected, not realizing that her need to guide is what created the distance. Wise elderly people learn to pause. They learn to listen without correcting. They remind themselves that adulthood means ownership of one's choices. They understand that mistakes are not failures, but experiences. By stepping back, they protect their peace and preserve the relationship. Their presence becomes supportive rather than stressful. And often, when advice is no longer forced, it is finally sought. As this boundary around interference becomes stronger, wise elderly people face another difficult truth. The fourth thing they never do is tolerate ongoing disrespect simply because it comes from family. This lesson often arrives later in life, after years of endurance. Many parents were taught that love means sacrifice and silence. They excuse sharp words, dismissive behavior, and emotional neglect, telling themselves that family bonds require patience. But time has a way of revealing the cost of this patience. Disrespect, when accepted repeatedly, does not fade. It settles quietly into the heart. It turns into sadness, resentment, and emotional fatigue. Wise elders realize that peace cannot grow in an environment where dignity is constantly compromised. This realization does not turn them bitter or confrontational. Instead, it makes them clear. Wise elders stop explaining themselves endlessly. They stop tolerating conversations that leave them feeling small. They respond calmly, or sometimes not at all. They shorten visits that feel draining. They choose distance over daily emotional harm. There is often a quiet awakening behind this change. An elderly woman who is constantly spoken over by her adult children during family gatherings. At first, she laughs and stays silent. Over the years, she feels invisible. One day, she decides to stop forcing herself into spaces where she is not respected. She spends more time with friends who listen, activities that bring joy, moments that feel peaceful. Nothing dramatic happens. But inside, something shifts. Her self-respect returns, and with it, her peace. From this renewed sense of dignity, wise elderly people become more sensitive to another habit that once damaged closeness without them realizing it. The fifth thing they stop doing is comparing their children to others. Comparison often hides behind concern. Parents worry whether their children are successful enough, stable enough, happy enough. They mention other people's achievements hoping to inspire. But wisdom reveals that comparison rarely encourages. It wounds. Wise elders have seen how comparison creates distance. They remember conversations that turned cold after a single careless remark. They recall moments when their children grew quiet, defensive, or withdrawn. Over time, they understand that every life unfolds differently. Circumstances, timing, opportunities, and struggles vary in ways no outsider can fully see. Many elderly parents reflect on their own youth. They remember how painful it felt to be measured against others. They realize that comparison did not make them stronger. It made them anxious. This insight changes their approach. Wise elders stop measuring their children's lives against someone else's timeline. They choose curiosity over judgment. This shift softens relationships. Conversations become safer. Children feel accepted rather than evaluated. And the elderly parent feels relief, no longer carrying the burden of constantly assessing whether their child's life meets some invisible standard. Peace grows in the absence of comparison. Finally, after all these lessons quietly come together, wise elderly people reach the most liberating understanding of all. They stop living in fear of being abandoned or forgotten. This fear controls many behaviors more than people realize. It leads parents to overgive, overcall, overworry, and oversacrifice. It whispers that love must be secured through effort and endurance. Wise elders recognize that fear cannot create genuine closeness. It creates obligation, not love. They see how clinging pushes people away, while calm independence invites respect. Slowly, they stop centering their entire existence around their children's availability. Instead, they begin to build a life that feels full on its own. They reconnect with old friends. They create daily routines they enjoy. They explore interests they once postponed. This independence brings a quiet confidence. They no longer wait anxiously for calls or visits to feel valued. There is a powerful story often repeated in different forms. An elderly man who spent years feeling lonely because his children were busy. Once he stopped waiting and started filling his days with meaning, something changed. His children sensed the shift. Visits became warmer. Conversations felt lighter. Love flowed naturally without pressure. Wise elderly people understand that peace in old age does not come from being needed. It comes from being whole. When they stop chasing attention, they become easier to love. When they stop fearing loneliness, they become emotionally free. In the end, wise elderly people protect their peace not by demanding more from their children, but by releasing what drains them. They stop overgiving, overfixing, overcontrolling, overcomparing, and overfearing. They choose dignity over sacrifice, calm over chaos, wisdom over habit. And because of this, they grow older not with bitterness or regret, but with quiet strength, clarity, and a peace that feels deeply earned.